So what do you see as the role of education in contemporary society today?
Well, not what it's currently doing, I would have to say. I mean, it's not like saying that it needn't do what it's doing. I mean, I think people naturally want to get jobs, and education has a role in that. So skills and capacities, development of those kinds of things, all those measurable things that people go on about in schools and universities, they're important. But they're not the whole story, it seems to me. And what we've forgotten in contemporary society are the sorts of things that are formations of human persons. I mean, we've forgotten that that's in itself a vital aspect of what education's about. Well, if we're serious about things like democracy, how do we learn about democracy? What do we understand by democracy? What kind of society do we want to live in? Where does that all come from? Where do we learn about that? Where do we decide about whether or not we're going to respect persons? Are we simply out to do the best we can for ourselves? I mean, in modern liberal democracy, I mean, if we take Libertarianism, for example, which is a kind of extreme form of self-interest, it seems to me. If that's what we are, just simply self-interested, then our education presumably is about giving each person exactly what they want. And we have a sort of sense in the modern world currently where the student is a client, is a customer, and the customer wants a certain product. And so our job is to deliver that product. I find that kind of talk quite inimical to what I think education is about. Now, I've been told and criticised for saying, but this is just a way of speaking. Problem is, words have power. One of the things is that language can create a reality. Once I start talking about you as my client, and you see me as delivering a product you want, that changes the relationship.
It's also the language of business, it's the language of economics, which is, if you like, foreign to any sense of what an education truly is. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt there.
No, you're quite right about that. I agree that, that once you start using the language of economics, the language of the market in describing what you're doing in an area which is not actually much to do with the market, you begin to corrupt the processes that are meant to be there as educational. So to me, the role of education is vital. If we're serious about creating democratic society, then we've got to create a society where people see themselves as cooperating and contributing to each other's welfare, at the same time being fulfilled themselves. So, I mean, I don't resolve from the fact that obviously people need to get skills, they need to have jobs, because jobs do fulfill, but it's not the whole story. I mean, you could have a really well-paid job, but your life is meaningless. And if your life is meaningless, or you have no fulfillment in that, what do? You turn to drugs? Do you turn to what? I mean, having all of the, it goes right back to Aristotle. Aristotle tells you that, having wealth, having fame, all of those things don't matter. That in fact what matters is fulfillment and the good and virtue. So
the service model, it definitely excludes any notion of the common good.
Well, I think
what that might look like.
I think it does. I mean, we have, of course, in the world today, a kind of understanding that there's no common good.
That's correct.
And this is the.
It connects with that notion of truth, which there is no truth. It's a post-truth world.
Yeah, well, we keep talking about post-facts now, or fake news and all of those kinds of things. Basically, now journalists have abrogated their responsibility in the sense of reporting the truth, as far as they can understand that it's no longer important. It's about selling newspapers, and what will sell is not necessarily what's true. It's far better to sensationalise things and say, and to create stories.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it becomes a kind of fiction. We have rather than news, it's fictional news. So it's because that's more interesting, you know, or apparently more interesting. I mean, that's. So I think that I've a little bit off the track here in terms of what education is about. But look, I think it's part of the same brush. I mean, one of the things that education has to instill in people is a respect for each other, but also a respect for truth, and for the notion that there is virtue, that virtue is important, and the kinds of virtues we mean are the, you know, to start with, the cardinal virtues. You know, I mean, is courage important? What's courage actually mean? Perseverance, being able to endure the vicissitudes of life, and being able to persevere in the things that we do, to recognise. I mean, if we go right back to what Socrates says about education, I mean, Socrates' notion of know thyself, and what does that mean? You know, know thyself. Yeah, I know myself. My name is so and so, and you know, I live at such and such a place. That's not what he means by know thyself. What he means by know thyself, know what you are, know the kinds of things you can do, and that you only learn by doing things, by persevering, and the character you develop. So there's a whole lot of stuff there that's part of education which we've forgotten, and it's part of what a democracy is supposed to be about, that I listen to other people's views, I'm active, I'm part of the world around me, I take an interest in what people say to me. So it seems to me education is vital, but it's got to be an education which, it seems to me, involves, and I would argue this, I think there's a need for a spiritual dimension in education as well. Now, I haven't really talked about that at this point, but there is, if religion is important as part of democracy, then religion needs to be part of education in some kind of form or other. And it seems to me we discount a whole area of life, the development and the formation of human beings as persons who respect one another, who have a concern for the truth, who have a concern for the common good, and who have a concern for social justice in the end. To me, if you're not doing all of that, then the rest is kind of frippery. It's not that important.
Now, I'm just noticed the time now. We have gone over a little bit.
Oh, that's all right.
And we could probably talk for a good another hour on a lot of different things, but particularly on this, we could definitely go for another hour. But